Are you looking for ways to increase the freedom and joy in your homeschool experience? Well, join me today for the first of a 3-part series with Emily Bradley of Easy Start Homeschool, where we'll discuss just that.
I was all alone, but then you came along.
All right, well, welcome to the Home Educated Mind, and I am so excited because today I have with me Emily Bradley, and we're going to take the next few episodes and just talk about some different things in homeschooling. And so, Emily, I am so glad you are here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And Emily and I have known each other for a while, but you may not know her, so let me just tell you a little bit about her. She is a mother of 5, is that right?
5.
In the ages of 2 and 13.
Yeah.
So that you've been busy.
Yeah.
And you've been homeschooling for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few years ago, you started Easy Start Homeschool to coach other moms who wanted to try homeschooling. So you and I sort of have a similar passion in that we want to help moms who are looking to homeschool and to help them along their journey and just so they can wade through all this information online, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say you're passionate about helping people understand that they can find a way to homeschool despite obstacles, and that homeschooling can lead your family to real freedom and joy. So I mentioned that we're going to do a couple of episodes with Emily, but I wanted to start right there with, I love the fact that you chose the words freedom and joy. And I wanted to know why those words.
Yeah, I would say I'll do 2 parts. So freedom, number one, I think that a lot of people, they have a picture in their mind when they think about what homeschooling is or the life of a homeschooling mom or a homeschooling family. And when they think about it, they think drudgery. They think, I'm trapped at home with these kids that are going to drive me crazy. I'm going to have to learn how to be teachery. I'm going to have to do certain things, wear certain clothes, jumpers, the whole shebang. And I think they think it's they're being trapped. But actually, I think the reverse is true. I think when you have your children in school, there are a lot more confines placed on your family that you might not even realize are there because it is the norm. And right. So when something is normal, it can start to feel like, the reality of it kind of just disappears because everybody's doing it. So everybody is waking up at 6:30 or 7 and rushing their kids like crazy and making lunches and trying to get them out the door to the bus. And everybody is being fined for being tardy to pick up or, having to start here and not being able to go on vacation and try and cram summer vacations into the summer and dealing with why is my child not understanding this? And I'm confused. What does the school want from me now? Or those types of things. We don't always think oh, wow, these are actually confines on my freedom. We think this is normal. And so actually, I think homeschooling gives you so much more freedom. Yes, more responsibility, but you get to kind of imagine the life that you want, imagine the dream education for your child that you want. And I just think that that's very liberating, which is the opposite of what a lot of people think.
Right.
Right. And then go ahead.
And then I was just thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking of the partnership of freedom and responsibility. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we don't want to take responsibility. We want, in many things, we want it to be somebody else's responsibility. That, and to rise up, part of being a leader is taking responsibility.
Yeah.
We sort of shun responsibility, but like you're saying, responsibility is really where freedom comes from, because then you're making choices and you have the power to choose and to change.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm just always, and victim might not be the right word, but where somebody else is making those decisions and I just respond, then I really have no power.
Right.
And it's interesting that you say too about the idea of being stuck at home. I do think there's a lot of, and kind of negative connotations, and you're wasting your life too. You know what I mean? Particularly nowadays, when you've got all of these opportunities, you should be out there doing things.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Absolutely. I mean, there is an element of, there's no denying that there's an element of sacrifice that is there. But sometimes I think we focus too much on that as homeschool moms and say this is a sacrifice. I really view it more like as an investment.
Sure.
You are, and this is kind of a good segue into the idea of joy, is that, rather than just like sacrificing yourself on this altar of like, I believe this is what I have to do and I have to sacrifice myself for my kids. I don't believe that's the right perspective at all. I actually think you're making an investment in relationships with your kids. I mean, from what I've seen of parents, when they have their kids in school, their kids are gone for a long time. They're in a world that the parents don't know unless they're very engaged, which then can they really work? If they're like the type of mom who's like always at the school volunteering, it's like you can't really have a job anyway, So it's a lot of work to like maintain that connection. But a lot of parents, I think, end up in a state where they're disconnected from the school. And they're saying, why is my child cranky? Why, when they're coming home, I don't know, is there bullying involved? How do I get a hold of the teacher? What, and they're wondering how to like piece together. And then it's very stressful. Their child's coming home at the end of the day. The time, I think, for relationship building is like at the worst part of the day, and that's just rough. I think that the way school is structured now, it puts an enormous burden on parents to be like, okay, we'll take them during the good hours, try to give them some learning. And then here you go. You have them when they're totally exhausted, and stressed out and emotionally spent. And this is the time that you have to try to instill values in them, instill character that you want to see in them, build your own relationship with them that's going to like continue on after the education years are done.
Right.
That relationship is what's going to last, And so I think as homeschoolers, it's such a joy, it's like, okay, so it's like parenting or running a marathon or having a baby, anything that you do that is so much work and requires discipline and sacrifice. On the flip side of it is joy,
right?
And sometimes people are only thinking about like the work or the sacrifice, but the flip side is real and lasting joy in just your relationship as a family, and knowing that like you've gotten to invest in your child, that you've tried to help them and their individuality blossom, which I think the school is not very good at. I think those are all things that can bring real joy and not just like happiness, but
right.
So.
And I was thinking too, like I've talked to a number of parents and they've said exactly that. These are parents that their kids are in school. And one parent said, when she picks her children up, it's so stressful. Mm-hmm. And they're just exhausted because a school day is a long day for a child as well. And so we were just brainstorming, myself and this parent, just how to help when you do pick them up, what are things you could do. And so I had just suggested, having a special snack or just having something that they come into the car that they look forward to, and some decompressing time to not expect it, you know. But I think you're right. It's just, it takes up so much of your time and schedule.
Yeah.
And having that schedule and having that time and freedom really lets you relax, and that's where joy comes from.
Yeah.
And then, like you said too, the relationship, you know, your kids, they grow so fast. I mean, they do. It's over quick.
Yeah.
It feels like it'll never be over, but it is, you know? And so I loved having the ability to be there with them and just enjoy those years.
Yeah. I really, I think we'll talk more about this later, but when I had Luke, he's my oldest, he just turned 13. He was a baby. I would have him in the grocery store or just anywhere out in the park, just out and about. We live in the city. Not kidding you, every other day, at least someone would say to me something along those lines. They grow up so fast.
Yeah.
Cherish this time. Oh, you're going to look back and this is the golden time. With old people, you know, I mean, like 50 years old, but 70 years old, men, women, just exhorting me, embrace these years. These are the years you look back on. And I thought two things. Number one, I want to really heed their wisdom. Nobody is telling me, you know, so when are you going to get back to work? You know, and moreover, these people, many of them seem to look back with regret. Like they were, it's almost like, are you aware of this fairy tale about the man who gets the golden thread? And he, and this, you know, goblin or fairy tells him you can pull it out to speed up your life. Have you ever heard this one? It's a fairy tale about this man who, I think he wants to get married. And so he meets a fairy somehow, or a goblin or something, some mystical creature. And in exchange for like letting the fish go or one of those type of things, he says, here's this magical thread. And if you pull the thread, it will make your life speed up. So you won't have to wait for the things that you want. And so this guy's, he's a young man. He has to wait because he's saving money to be able to get married, or he's going away to war. Whatever, he pulls the thread, boom, he's married. And then he goes on and he's like, wow, this is amazing. I'm so happy. Great. He's happy for a while, but then his wife and he's, you know, kind of stop getting along. He pulls the thread anytime it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And then he has children, they're crying. He pulls the thread. You know, anytime he perceives that things are difficult. But then at the end of his life, obviously he looks back and he's like, I missed all the good stuff. And so it just made me think that to really take their wisdom and say, even what I perceive as hard is the good stuff. And I can't try to avoid it or skip over it, but I need to just lean into it. So
yeah, and being the one that's 70, no, I'm just kidding. But being, you know, I totally agree. And I think you've hit on a couple of important things. Number one, when you're in anything, you're in what's real, right? Like it's like when you're grocery shopping and the kids are grabbing at things and you're trying to get home because you got to cook dinner and you've got something that night or whatever, and you're in it and you're dealing with all of those aspects. It is stressful, and that's true. But I think what those people are saying is they're really talking to themselves, like you're saying, not you. And they're saying, I wish that I had been more present.
Yeah.
And that's a struggle, just because life is vast and full. But I think you're wise to say, let's heed it and let's, because it does go quickly, and the hard parts, like you say, do produce the good. You've got to do the hard to get to the good. Yeah. And I love that it's in the movie, what's it called, of their own, it's the women's baseball.
League of Their Own. Yeah.
And she's like, I got to quit. It just got too hard. And he says, it's the hard that makes it good.
Mm.
And I think you're exactly right. We want to get away from the pain or what makes us uncomfortable, but that's where we grow. That's where those gems come. And it does sound nice to pull the string and avoid the pain. That's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're losing the best of life.
Yeah.
We're always trying to make ourselves comfortable. And yet, also, I think when you challenge yourself and do something uncomfortable, you gain so much growth. I'm just talking even for yourself to try, anything new. That's how you grow,
Yeah.
I agree. Now, just within this idea of, I had a couple questions. Oh, yes. For example, what kinds of things, when you talk with parents and let's say they're struggling with freedom and joy, do you see what kinds of things stress them out when they are considering homeschooling? Like, what are the stressors of maybe even homeschooling?
Well, I think the first thing I see with parents who are not familiar with homeschooling, or maybe they're just starting out, is the idea that they have to be a certain personality or do certain things. I see this a lot with parents who say, I'm doing this, 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 and this. This is my daily schedule. Is this good enough? Am I enough? And I actually did a poll of asking all these moms who had not begun homeschooling yet, what's your biggest fear or obstacle to homeschooling? Number one, far and away, is that they're not enough.
Yeah.
They're not just not confident enough to know that they're giving their child what their child needs, that they're giving them the education that is sufficient. And so I think that is that mental and emotional hang up. That's number one, far and away.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But funny, because I've done that too. Every time I speak, I say, write down your number one, what keeps you up at night. And they write down, I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that's a lie we've been told in terms of that we have to be everything. And that somehow that a professional is everything.
Mm-hmm.
That somehow 4 years of school has made them everything. And it's an interesting contradiction right there. And I think you're absolutely right to just stop and say, that's the wrong angle. All right, we're going to say, you were on to something else. You said, they're not enough, and the other.
There are like real actual struggles that people deal with in homeschooling. Learning disabilities, which you have some great tools and videos on. But those are like a real thing that parents can wonder, like, is this normal? Or, and sometimes the school system is, not in all cases, but sometimes they do have some medical expertise that can maybe lead parents, and maybe homeschool parents need to do a little more digging. But I also think, there's a flip side that parents are with their kids more. They're focused on their kids. It's like the classic, who loves the child best? Who knows the child best? And I feel like that kind of balances out the expertise of professionals on some level, that can lead the parent to dig deeper, to investigate potential problems. But, real struggles like needing money, if parents are in a if they have a lot of debt, or if there's not a real high earner in the family, and it's always a struggle. So, there are some real things that people deal with, but I think most people, it's the mental. So.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, I do love that God has put us in families. I just think it was such wisdom
Mhm.
Because even you who has, you have the more children than, let's say, the national average, right? What is it?
Mhm.
Half? I don't know. I got 2.5 children.
Probably 2.5 now.
But but you have a larger number, but even so, it's still 5 children and you and your husband, like that's still just 7 people.
Mhm.
It's a manageable number. And you can be an advocate for your child. And it's always interesting to me how kind of our passions sometimes come out of what we're dealing with in our home, right? You have somebody who becomes passionate about, say, dyslexia because they have a dyslexic child, or they become passionate about something because within their home they've had to be the advocate for it. And I think, like you're saying, professionals are helpful, and even homeschoolers can go to professionals. The beauty of the school system is that maybe some things are paid for, through that process. But the beauty is that you advocate for your child and you adjust for your child, and ultimately your child is seen. Whereas when we get in bigger groups, we aren't seen as clearly as individuals. You just can't be, the beauty of a family. All right, well, we are going to end this discussion here because of time, but Emily, that was wonderful. And I so appreciate just the focus on freedom and joy, and the realization that, it's what I liked in the beginning when you were talking about it's what we know. So we think that it's normal, but how could we re-look at what we think is normal and what could be those hidden benefits? And we just touched on a few. All right, well, thank you so much. And I'll look forward to talking to you in a bit here.
I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and that it's helped increase your confidence in homeschooling. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out the Yes You Can Homeschool equipping course at thehomeeducatedmind.com. And until the next time, remember, yes, you can homeschool.